Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmitty, Swanee and Clarky visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right, how are we?
Great.
Very well.
Gresh. Yeah.
Got any news?
I have. And it's not real news, but you know how you're talking in the last episode about what pops up on your Facebook feed?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to read you this, and I want you to think of it in the context of me telling you a trial by wine story.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I want any of these two people dead, but I just think it's got the beginnings of something fantastic.
Okay.
So this is from 9 News on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
A dispute has erupted between two of Australia's most influential cooks over allegations of plagiarising recipes. Nagi Mayahashi of the popular cooking website Recipe Tin Eats yesterday
I
published
follow
a
that.
blog.
I used them for last week.
Yeah, she's great. Yesterday published a blog accusing Brooke Bellamy of plagiarising 2 recipes in her best-selling cookbook, stating the similarities between the recipes in question are far too specific and detailed to be dismissed as coincidence. If that's not the making of a trial by wine story,
I'm with
I
you.
don't know what is, yes.
oh, how intrigued. Like, where's that going to go?
And I know, and it's one of those things, because often you read these things and think, I don't know who these people are, I don't care. But Recipe 10 Eats, I follow her.
I
She
mean, that
pops
could
up, she has
almost
good
be
stuff.
those 2 ice skaters, Tonya
Yes,
Harding and
Tonya
Nancy,
Harding and Nancy
Kerrigan.
Kerrigan
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do my level best not to cook.
Ever.
I really don't like it. And I only do what is like the least amount of
Minimum viable product.
correct.
Yeah.
And so I'm really good at like hosting things and doing barbecues or anything that I can buy. I'm just not very good at doing. But to be fair, the one recipe that I've used lately, and when I say lately, last 3 years, I did probably 2 weeks ago for a potato salad, and it was from Recipe 10,
There you
There you
go.
whatever
go.
the last word was.
Eats.
But Eats.
Yeah.
There you go.
What I do is I save them.
Oh, I save loads of recipes. I just don't cook it.
Like anything that comes up on Facebook, I just save it to a collection called food. Never
I've
go
got
back
that.
and look at it again.
Same here. That's me.
Never make any of them, but I think, I'll just hang on to that just in case I want
Yeah,
to.
some of them I look at, I think, God, if I could be asked, that'd be great. If I could get someone to cook me that, I'd be very pleased.
Well, I think I've got off cooking since I've been with Tony because it's a
exhausting.
chore now.
I do have some friends who genuinely, not a lot, but a few friends
Sometimes
who
I
really,
like it.
they really enjoy cooking. They enjoy cooking for their family. Not me.
No.
Never have, and I don't think it gets worse. And that idea of going, what am I going to do? What am I going to cook them? What do I care?
I do. The meal kits are good for that. So I use Quite Like. They're not a sponsor of ours, but if you'd like to sponsor us, you can.
No, because we're sponsored by HelloFresh.
We're not. We're not sponsored by HelloFresh. They sponsor everyone else, but they haven't sponsored us. So Quite Like, we're available if you would like to sponsor us. Contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. But
Clown Passions. Yeah,
Clown
they'll be
Passions.
straight into our.
Discount
That'd be the
code,
only thing
Clown
I remember
Passions
about the
20.
whole podcast. The whole, how many
long
is it?
time ago,
3
too.
years, 4 years, whatever it is.
It was
I remember
John Wayne
Clown
Gacy.
Passions. That's it.
Clown Passions. The discount code Cloud
Yeah,
Passions 20. All right. So that's good information there, Clarky. Thank you.
Yes, that was very interesting. I think we better stay tuned.
Yeah, watch
I
this space.
hope nothing goes down, but yeah.
Speaking of staying tuned, the other big news, which I woke up to a message, I think it was this morning or was it yesterday? I don't know. Days have all rolled into one. But the first message I got from a colleague either this morning or yesterday was, OMG, the mushroom trial starts today.
I know. I've been
Yes.
watching that. Oh.
I haven't been watching it. I haven't had the time to follow it. But I know that at some point or other, either Clarky or I are going to cover it. So, yes, it's in trial currently. So we won't
I
talk about
just
it.
can't wait for that trial outcome.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, anyway.
Okay. So, unfolding before our very eyes. I suppose we should introduce ourselves. I'm Schmitty.
I'm Swanee.
And I'm Clarky. Together we are
Trial
Trial by
by
Wine.
And what are we drinking?
Like that.
Oh, Coca-Cola Zero.
Swanee's
What's that
drinking.
say?
Oh, it's got a word on it. Can you read that?
Stud.
Legend.
Ooh,
It
you're a
is.
stud.
Oh, well, hello. Did you just put a stud to your lips?
How awkward.
Did.
You'll
I
get a
did.
Stubby
reputation.
one.
Jeepers.
But yeah, they brought that thing out, the naming thing out again.
All right.
I had a Jessica and an Angus the other day
Oh.
in a bottle.
I had Bogan.
Did you? I think I saw a Bogan. Yeah. I sort of laughed, but I was just drinking it because I was drinking Coke, not because I was buying it for the name on it. Yeah. So you got a Coke, no sugar. And boys, what are you still on the feather
We're
top?
on more of the Feathertop Red, yes.
Delicious. And I'm still drinking Baileys, but I've also got a bottle of soda water because
Nice.
one must remain hydrated. So who
Well
has
done.
a story for us?
Me.
Woohoo!
Oh,
Suspense.
awesome. You gonna tell
Suspense
your
was
story
killing me
in
then.
Clarky's voice, perchance.
I'll just make something up off the cuff.
Did you say you have one or you don't
No, I
have
don't
one?
have one. I don't have one.
Oh, I thought you said you did have one.
I did because I thought you were doing yours.
She put it in
So I
the
said
chat
to him,
earlier
like,
today.
I'll go and get the iPad for you. He goes, no. Swanee said she's got one.
No, I don't have one.
She was fibbing big time.
Luckily, then, I
Talk
have a
amongst-
There was
story.
Talk
such a
amongst
strange
yourselves.
freaking pause there. I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, Clarky, say it. And you're like,
No,
and,
not
and
gonna.
then Swanee's looking mischievous.
Absolutely.
That was
Hey,
funny.
boy.
Well, then, I have a story for us.
Excellent.
That's quite funny.
That's handy.
What is it? 193? We're very organised, aren't we? We've really got this down pat.
It's a well-oiled machine.
That's never happened before.
Mm-mm.
No, it hasn't. Okay, so I've got a story, and I'm going to start off with my sources. So my sources are Wikipedia, Time, Yahoo.com,
Yahoo.
and ScreenRant.com.
Oh, good one.
Oh, I don't know that one.
I like
seen
the
it a few
sound of
times.
that one.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to start by talking to you about Ouija boards. Do you know
Oh.
Ouija boards?
Yes, I
Yes.
do.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, a
occult.
Ouija board is a flat board marked with the letters of the Latin alphabet, the numbers 0 to 9, the words yes, no, and occasionally hello and goodbye.
I don't
along
think I
with
did know that.
various symbols and graphics
You know what a Ouija is? It's when you do
I know what it
seance,
is, but I didn't
yeah?
realise that
for
there
a
was.
seance.
I do know what it's for, but I don't think I'd ever really given any thought to there being a standard format. I didn't realise that was
okay.
how one, but what one consists of. I thought it was like you made it up and there was a yes or no or something. I did not know that.
I would agree that I wasn't aware of the format, but
I
look
didn't know
at
if I
that.
looked at the Ouija board. I can't even say it. Ouija board shop.
Ouija.
If this isn't one of the most
Ouija.
informative podcasts going
And by
around,
the way, Ouija
Alve.
is actually just a
Ouija.
brand name for them.
Is it?
stop it! That's
Oh,
part of my story, you mole.
Okay, I'll take that out. Sorry. You said you know anything about Ouija boards. Yes, I know a lot about Ouija boards. Okay, sure, I'll say that.
So it uses a small heart-shaped piece of wood or plastic as a movable indicator to spell out
Planchette?
messages during a seance.
Called a
Participants
planchette.
place their fingers on the planchette and it is moved about the board to spell out words.
Look at Swanee's face. She's horrified that I know these things. before
Did
say
you know
it.
that the name Ouija is a trademark of Hasbro, inherited from Parker
Parker
Brothers?
Brothers, yes, I did.
No way.
Yes, way.
But is often used generically to refer to any talking board.
It's like
Others
the
include
Kleenex.
spirit board, talking board,
And the
or
Hoover.
witch board.
Yeah.
Yes, all those things. Paranormal and supernatural beliefs associated with Ouija have been criticised by the scientific community and are characterised as pseudoscience. The action of the board can be most easily explained by unconscious movements of those controlling the pointer, a psychophysiological phenomenon known as the ideomotor effect.
Or a ghost.
Or a ghost. Yes, or somebody from beyond.
A spirit. Spirit has come into the room.
Yes.
Spirit. Yes.
So the phrase is most commonly used in reference to the process whereby a thought or mental image brings about a seemingly reflexive or automatic muscular reaction, often of minuscule degree and potentially outside the awareness of the subject. As in responses to pain, the body sometimes reacts reflexively with an ideomotor effect to take ideas alone without the person consciously deciding to take action. So basically, you're You might
Automatic
move
reaction.
the what was it called,
Planchette.
Schmitty? You might move the
Planchette.
planchette around by as a subconscious
Reflex
kind of
or a
movement.
subconscious movement, yeah.
Or you might do it to spell out something scary so you scare your friends.
Or
Anyway.
a spirit is guiding the planchette.
Can I ask you a question, Schmitty?
Yeah.
Have you had a lot of experience with this, Schmitty?
I've never used a Ouija board. I think they're quite dangerous because
That's what I would have thought. Being a Catholic, I would have thought it was scary.
It is. Mr. Pseudoscience is having they're rubbish, which is fair enough.
I wouldn't do anything near. I would not be.
But I don't want to take the risk.
I'm too scared. Yeah,
what
me
happens
too.
if you invite something from the other side across that you can't get rid of because you don't understand it, and then it's attached to you and you're stuck with it forever? No, thank you, matron.
Swanee, is that the same way you don't like to talk about Wiggers?
That's exactly the same.
Because if you invite the same thing from the other side of the country.
This is exactly the way I feel about most things that terrify me. I just shut it out. If I don't think about it, if I don't allow...
Instead of Ouija board.
Wiggers board.
Stop tempting her. Just stop it. Stop. This is all the different things that she'll be just Googling a name one day and she'll find this. And she's like, oh, who are they? Who's this lot? Who's this lot? What do you mean? They can't. Surely they're not talking about me. Oh. Well, actually, pay me.
Sure, we said nothing but nice things about her. You certainly never said anything but nice things about her.
Certainly said nothing.
You are.
You would be
scared.
You would be third on the hit list if she was to come and get us. If Schmitty and I get knocked off in mysterious circumstances, go to the police and frame Wiggers. Right.
Right. Sorry about that, interview.
Good chat. Right, so facilitated communication, on the other hand, or supported typing, was developed in the 1960s, initially to help those with autism. The process involves a facilitator helping the user with a Neo keyboard, which has a built-in LCD display, by supporting their arm as they type, and was found to have been particularly successful in the case of Sue Rubin, a non-verbal autism sufferer who, after using facilitated communication as a teenager in the 1990s, was able to graduate from college with a degree. Facilitated communication, or FC as we like to call it when you're in the know, is a scientifically discredited technique which claims to allow non-verbal people such as those with autism to communicate. The technique involves the facilitator, similar to a Ouija board, guiding the disabled person's arm or hand in an attempt to help them type on a keyboard or such other device as that they are unable to properly use if unfacilitated.
Can you imagine how long it would have taken for, what was the person's name? Sue
Rubin.
Sue Rubin to write their PhD or dissertation in this facilitated fashion?
Well, she only got a degree. She's not a doctorate, so she doesn't have to do
write, at least 5.
Oh, yeah, you got to write a lot.
Yeah, let's find out what she got the degree in next.
Like if you do science, you've only got to do exams and essays and stuff. It's not.
But the essays,
you don't have to do any of that kind of.
She didn't have to do a Bachelor of Arts in Tourism, did she?
Bashing out. I'm imagining a person holding your arm while you bash out one letter at a time. You're not touch typing, right?
Well, no, that's right. And the thing is, are they actually bashing out any words?
Or
anyway,
is the facilitator writing it for you? Yes, I get that. But the facilitator could do it faster if they just touch typed it themselves.
Yeah.
So there is a widespread agreement within the scientific community and among disability advocacy organisations that FC is a pseudoscience. Research indicates that the facilitator is the source of the messages obtained through FC rather than just the disabled person. The facilitator may believe they are not the source of the messages due to the ideomotor effect, which is the same effect that guides a Ouija board.
No, because the facilitator in this instance is the Ouija board.
No, the Neo keyboard is the Ouija board.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Studies have consistently found that FC is unable to provide the correct response to even simple questions when the facilitator does not know the answers to the questions. Examples showing the patient but not the facilitator an object. Facilitated communication has been called the single most scientifically discredited intervention in all of developmental disabilities.
Oh, close.
Yeah, close enough. So, interesting lesson. Story over? I don't think so.
I shouldn't think so. We haven't got to the crime yet. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So why is this important for today's story? Well, I think FC is a crime in itself. But anyway,
Fish and chips.
and what the hell does this have to do with true crime, I hear you ask? Well,
what does this have
today
to do?
I'm going to tell you a controversial true story from the US. It's the
Okay.
story of Anna Stubblefield. Anna Stubblefield grew up in Plymouth, Michigan, with her mother Sandra McLennan and her father. She was raised Jewish, and during her high school years, Stubblefield wrote for the school newspaper, studied Braille, and learned American Sign Language. Stubblefield received her PhD in 2000 and became a prominent scholar in the field of Africana philosophy and chairwoman of the American Philosophical Association's Committee on the Status of Black Philosophers, and the author of a book published by Cornell University Press entitled Ethics Along the Color Line. In 2001, she became a philosophy professor at Rutgers University, where she also served as a faculty advisor to the university's Disability Services Office. Her university website described her as a facilitated communication trainer by the FC Institute at the School of Education, Syracuse University. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Derrick Johnson. Derrick had experienced multiple seizures as an infant and had subsequently been diagnosed with cerebral palsy and hydrocephalus. Hydrocephalus?
Cephalus,
One
I
of
think.
those.
Yeah.
Medical records from Derrick's infancy describe him as having severe mental retardation. Obviously, language that is now obsolete in the healthcare field because it's imprecise and stigmatizing. More specifically, Derrick has severe mental disabilities and cannot speak and is unable to stand independently or accurately direct movements of his body. Based on his disability, his mother and brother were appointed his legal guardians. He attended a day program that helped him learn to walk, as well as his family's day-to-day activities from church services to beach trips. His brother John says it was always clear to him that Derrick was there, smiling when he was happy, expressing frustration when he wasn't, and generally engaging with life. But he had never had any formal education. In 2009, black, nonverbal, and disabled 28-year-old Derrick first came face-to-face with white and married university professor Anna Stubblefield, the teacher of his older brother John. John attended one of her courses at Rutgers in disability studies, in which she talked about facilitated communication and showed a video depicting Sue Rubin, the woman I spoke of earlier who'd been diagnosed with autism and an intellectual disability, learning to use the method to communicate and going on to become a scholar and activist. Watching Sue, John was reminded of his brother and thought this could be something that would help Derrick. So he approached his 39-year-old ethics lecturer.
Yeah,
Save
got
that
it.
for later.
Ethics.
In
Operative word being
ethics
ethics.
lecturer.
Yeah.
Yes, in the hope of her being able to assist in Derrick's communication struggles. Stubblefield, who grew up around FC because of her mother, who used it in the work she did as psychologist and aide for disabled people, offered to facilitate for Derrick herself. After she spoke with Derrick's mother, Daisy Johnson, it was decided that Stubblefield would teach Derrick facilitated communication. Anna agreed and began teaching Derrick how to use the keyboard with LED screen to type, after which she began taking university classes with her.
I don't understand that person, how they've gone from having no formal education and being...
It's the wonder of facilitated
But
communication.
how do you make the leap to then getting, is it like a university education? Is that what they're suggesting?
Yeah, he's taking university classes. Yeah.
Can you repeat to me what was wrong with him? He was...
So it's like if
Cerebral
let's say I can't move this hand.
Right.
Anna Stubblefield grabs it and points it to all the letters that you need to do to get your degree.
Okay.
It's because she's using the pseudoscience of facilitated communication to help him write what's obviously in his mind.
That I understand, I think, based on what you're saying. But what are we not led to believe, because it's fact, what was wrong with him? The extent of it? He was mentally...
Cerebral palsy, non-verbal...
So when you've got cerebral palsy, that's not your brain, isn't it? Your body...
muscular, I think.
Muscular. So is he trapped inside where he can't communicate, but there's Do you know what I'm asking? I'm trying to
Yeah,
work
so
out
he
how.
had severe mental disabilities and cannot
So that's
speak.
different.
Yeah,
So
right.
he's not trapped in his body and a brilliant mind inside. He's got some severe
correct.
limitations. Got it. Yeah.
There's physical and mental challenges.
That's what I was kind of asking. Right, got it. That's what I thought.
And he's never had any formal education.
Yeah. So he should definitely be ready to start uni work then. Right, I'm with you now.
Meets Anna.
Yeah.
She's like
Right.
He's
Now I've got it.
definitely first year standard.
Uni material.
Right.
Yeah. That was me being a little bit. No, I was not trying to be facetious. I was like, hang on a tick, just to clarify before we go any further, what his limitations are. Now I'm very clear.
Probably can't spell Derrick.
Let's get him a degree.
To university.
Let's get him a degree. Yeah.
Well, reasonable adjustment.
Yeah. Maybe she's like a ring of power or something.
Look, I've heard it many times. Some kids come into their own when they're in year 12. Some kids come into their own when they get to uni. Derrick might be just one of those people.
He's just been held back all his life.
Yeah.
At one point in 2010, a message typed by Derrick and Anna via FC described Derrick as confined in my life, in a body that is not able to move the way I would like. Also without any spelling errors. Like I think I would spell things wrong if I couldn't move my hand properly. But for Anna, of course.
Give him, he's up for it.
As he continued working with Stubblefield, Derrick appeared to be progressing rapidly. Although both Daisy and John tried to learn to facilitate for him as well, their efforts always proved fruitless. They didn't have the knowledge, right?
They didn't have the touch.
Yeah. The Midas touch, but he touched it too much. Here go member. Here go member. Do you remember that?
Yeah. No, I don't know what that is.
That's Gold Member Austin Powers, and Beyonce's in it, and she sings, He's got the Midas touch, but he touched it too much. Here go member. Great line. Anyway, nevertheless, Derrick seemed more and more interested in writing, reading, and learning. He enrolled in an African-American literature course. Don't start with anything too complex.
No.
Yeah.
That's where his interest had laid the whole time,
Yeah. And guess whose alley that was right up?
Maybe Anna
Stubblefield, who was facilitating. He also attended FC conferences where Stubblefield shared statements that he had written. Stubblefield stated that she had successfully communicated with him, determining he was of normal intelligence. I'd say he's way better than that if he's had no education. Now he's doing uni courses.
Absolutely. I don't think I could do that unit.
She subsequently brought him to conferences where she held him out as a success story.
Where she exploited him.
It was like the porch lights went on, says Daisy, his mother. I felt very excited about it. As John approached the end of his PhD, there was something heartening about seeing Derrick seem to follow in his footsteps. I'm a black scholar. My baby brother, who was developmentally disabled, could be a black scholar. I felt great, says John. It makes sense that Derrick's family would want this for him, I think. And it makes sense that any person would want this, the ability to make their needs and desires known for themselves. But the needs and desires Derrick was allegedly sharing via FC became a source of contention between Stubblefield and the Johnsons.
The word desires concerns me ever so slightly.
During a car trip in 2011, Stubblefield said Derrick preferred classical music to the gospel station Daisy was playing. She told them he liked red wine better than beer, wanted to be a vegetarian, and hoped to move out of his mother's house. John couldn't help but note how much more aligned these preferences felt with Stubblefield's identity as a white woman than with the brother he knew and the larger context of their black family. Then Stubblefield told John and Daisy she and Derrick were in love and that she had had sexual relations with Derrick and that she was going to leave her husband for him. Stubblefield.
This guy has come on leaps and bounds since he got to uni. When I say that I hear this about people, I've never been thinking that you could make that much of an improvement. That is remarkable. 1 minute,
right?
Oh, God.
Stubblefield stated that the two of them had a mutually consenting relationship established through facilitated communication.
And she's the only one who can prove that through facilitated communication.
And let me just tell you.
I'll
Let me
just
just read
lean
that.
over the keyboard now and type, yes, I want to shag her.
Let me just read that to you in another context.
Mm.
Stubblefield stated that the two of them had a mutually consenting relationship established through the Ouija board.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, what? However, testing of DJ by family members failed to establish the ability to communicate. And Stubblefield was thanked but denied further access to DJ. She continued to attempt to maintain contact with him and began challenging control of legal guardians over him. In August 2011, the family contacted the police. Prosecutors began investigating the allegations, and in 2013, Anna was charged with 2 counts of first-degree aggravated sexual assault. Now, before we go to trial, I thought I'd share a little more with you on the challenges of people living with intellectual disabilities that prevent verbal communication. Just to put some context around all of this. So many non-speaking or partially...
There is no evidence at all that he was consenting and wanted that. I know she's been charged. Always saying that he's
non-verbal. He has no ability to communicate. She's saying
other
that
than through
via the Ouija board,
yeah,
he's consented to all of this.
Yes,
when any of his family try to use the Ouija board and get
work.
him to say anything, he can't communicate with any of them via the Ouija board, but he can study at university via the Ouija board with Stubblefield.
Mm-hmm.
She's amazing.
She's a very talented woman.
Oh, my God. There'd be a lineup for every person who is unable to communicate to spend some time with Anna.
Imagine if she can wheel him out at every conference that she does and says, look at this, how much money she could potentially make by Ouija boarding her way around the country. One doesn't like to be skeptical of true love. Many non-speaking or partially speaking disabled people use analog and digital letterboards and keyboards to communicate. Some, like autistic disability advocate Jordan Zimmerman, spent years unable to communicate because they'd received intellectual disability diagnoses that made caretakers assume they had nothing to say. So, Swanee, this is kind of where you were going earlier. Non-speaking people have long been subject to neglect and abuse, both as attempts to get them to speak and as a consequence of the belief that if they're incapable of speech, they must be incapable of meaningful thought.
Yeah.
As is often the case when it comes to adaptive technologies, gaining access can be life-changing. It's a fine line between providing access to technologies that facilitate communication and enlisting procedures such as FC/Ouija boards that purport to do this. Back to Stubblefield. Stubblefield pleaded not guilty to the charges and said that facilitated communication revealed DJ was mentally capable.
Of what? Having sex or
of making
consenting?
That decision.
Of consenting.
Okay.
Of communicating.
Mm-hmm.
Daisy Johnson said in court that her son lacked the capacity to engage in both physical and emotional intimacy. The heartbroken mum also insisted that Derrick lacked the ability to communicate in the way that Anna claimed he had.
Don't you just think he's like, first year uni student, sailing his wild oats, having a good time, just partying with
actually had sex with her?
Yeah, well, she got 2 charges against her, so...
He can't say that he had sex with her because he's non-verbal. So how do we?
I think she was happy to tell everyone they had.
Yeah.
Because she'd gone to tell the parents.
Sexual relationship.
We're in love. Yeah.
What a glow up for this kid, eh?
Yeah.
Well, I know he's gone from beer to red wine.
I know.
He's gone from rock to classical
music, yes.
He's
gospel to
music.
classical, yeah. I said he's had quite the glow up.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, look at me.
Glow up.
I enjoys the older lady. Yeah.
Look, I think, underestimate people.
So Daisy claimed that it wouldn't have been possible without her manipulating hands, being that he'd been declared by the states to have the mental capacity of a toddler. So,
Ooh.
gosh, she's almost a pedo in that regard.
She is a pedo. I think that's the
Pedo,
point.
worse. Yeah, she's fucking.
Prosecutors said that facilitated communication, because they aren't in the know, so they don't call it FC, was scientifically discredited and that DJ did not have the ability to consent to sexual relations. Experts evaluating DJ testified he did not have the intellectual ability to consent to sexual activity. Facilitated communication testimony from DJ was not allowed as the technique was ruled unreliable
Because
under
the only
New
person
Jersey
who was
law.
able to get him to say anything was Stubblefield.
Yeah.
Yep. Rather than bringing the detail of the trial, I thought I'd go on a little bit more about the challenges facing intellectually disabled. So, to understand the issues raised in this case, it's important to acknowledge how many people have been denied the right to communicate based on the ableist presumption that they weren't capable of communicating. To able people, it may seem like Derrick Johnson could never have communicated or experienced sexual desire simply because he's visibly disabled. His own mother stated that he had the capacity of a toddler and wasn't capable of these feelings. In an LA Times article, Kia Brown, journalist and disability rights advocate, said, "It is a long-standing and unfortunate truth that disabled people are often seen as undesirable and even as unable to experience desire, love, or care in the way that all individuals do. As disabled people, we understand how false that notion is and how harmful it can be."
I agree. So I think it's interesting because the issue is that he's nonverbal, but he was over the age of consent, and there's every chance he does have sexual desires. It's about unlocking or getting some understanding as to whether or not he understood what was being asked of him and he was okay with it. And the assumption is that he is not because he's disabled.
No. I think it's not that. So, because there's a whole spectrum of ability and disability, right?
Mhm.
So, if you're disabled but you have a sharp mind, you might get written off as not being able to think or not being able to
Yeah.
feel or any of that. And those people, it's particularly frustrating for because they're constantly treated as if they're not clever, intelligent
Mhm.
people. DJ is not that. So he's got the mind of a toddler. Everyone agrees that he doesn't have the ability to think in the way that Stubblefield is saying that he does, to act in the way that Stubblefield is saying that he does, and to communicate any of the
But what has
things
she
that
done?
she's saying.
Has she sort of put her wants and feelings onto this person and invented this narrative?
Well, the whole FC thing is effectively
Hokum.
fraudulent, right?
I get that that's a hokum, right? Or bunkum, I was sort of trying to say. But what is in it for her to do all of this? Do you get me?
I would say potential to Ouija board her way around America and the world.
But why would you involve yourself sexually with someone if you want to Ouija board yourself around the world?
Because you might be able to get custody of them and
weird.
therefore do what you want with them.
But that's
And
so
his
weird.
mum and brother were having nothing to do with it. I mean, the idea of thinking that you can make someone get a university degree by typing
Their
things
essay
into
for
a
them.
keyboard pretending that they're doing it. Yeah, that's weird. The whole thing.
That's what I'm saying. Do you think she really fraudulently did this, or there's something in her head that she thought this is all true, that FC's a thing, and that he is capable?
I think there's enough evidence to say that when if you that the whole thing of if you show the disabled person an object and then you get the FC person to try to get them to communicate what the object was, they never get it right. Says that there's enough evidence to say that FC is not a thing. Even if FC did tap into previously unrealized capacity for communication, the inherent potential for abuse is enough to call consent into question. How do you refuse anything, up to and including sex, when the person asking has a vested interest and control over your very ability to say no?
Yeah, I get that it's bullshit. My question is, has she convinced herself that it's not bullshit? Is where I was coming from.
Yeah. I mean, who knows?
Right.
You'd probably have to FC your way through that with her, I think.
Okay.
After a 3-week trial, the jury found Stubblefield guilty of 2 counts of first-degree aggravated sexual assault, the equivalent of rape in New Jersey. After conviction, the judge revoked bail, saying that she was a flight risk. Before sentencing, Stubblefield wrote to Judge Siobhan Tier stating, "I was deeply in love. I believed that he and I were intellectual equals and that our romantic relationship was consensual and mutually loving. I
And
intended
I
no
think the
harm
important words
and
there
I
are,
had
I
nothing to
believed.
gain."
Yep.
Mm.
Well, no, I think if she's doing all of his communication,
You are the
they
same
probably are
intellectual level because you're
intellectual.
talking
Yeah,
to
yeah.
yourself. That's right.
They will give each other exactly the same responses to every question
Correct.
because it's her answering everything.
And that's what I mean by her saying, I believed it. You know, if she's convinced herself, like someone who uses a Ouija and believes in spirit, you know, they might think it's real. And so they've convinced themselves. So it's possible that she had convinced herself of that.
Possible. She was sentenced to 12 years in prison. This included requiring her to register as a sex offender. In October 2016, the family was awarded $4 million in a civil lawsuit against Stubblefield.
And how's that going to get paid?
And who
Has she
pays
got-
for that?
Yeah. Has she got $4 million?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know whether it's some kind of university type thing or whether she pays off $20 a week for
The rest of her life.
eternity. Yeah. The victim's brother spoke during Stubblefield's sentencing hearing, stating, "Stubblefield is not Sandra Bullock, and this is not The Blind Side. She raped my brother. She tried to supplant his life with some version of life she thought was better," which I think is very interesting. Daniel Engberg covered Stubblefield's trial for the New York Times, and in 2018 he wrote, "From my position in the gallery reporting on the trial, it always seemed to me that Anna was entrapped by the grandiosity of her good intentions.
Yeah.
As an academic, she devoted much of her career to social justice, activism, and the philosophy of race and disability, warning in her published work that men like DJ, who is black, were like the canary's canary in the coal mine, the most vulnerable of the vulnerable, and subject to both white supremacist and ableist oppression. In teaching DJ how to type using a widely disavowed method known as facilitated
FC.
communication, or FC as we now call it, she believed that she was restoring his right of self-determination, empowering him to take college classes, present papers at conferences, and eventually express his longing for the older married white woman who had been his savior.
Ooh.
I mean, it's a lot of words, but it's kind of
I think it's bang on, though.
probably cuts to the heart of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
James Todd, a professor of psychology at the Eastern Michigan University and a vocal critic of facilitated communication, argued that Syracuse University, where Stubblefield received her training, held some of the responsibility for the crime. In 2018, he said, "For decades, the Syracuse administration has not only tolerated dangerous facilitated communication pseudoscience, it has even openly championed FC over clear and established science. It is not too late. Syracuse University can still renounce and repudiate FC. It can take a real responsibility for all the harm left in its wake."
Very
Now,
religious sounding. It's not too late. You can repent. Repent.
that's right. The story is not quite over. Anna
Oh.
Stubblefield appealed the conviction on the basis that it was a violation of her rights not to allow her to use facilitated communication as a defense. In July 2017, the judge agreed and her appeal was granted and her conviction revoked. She was given a new trial and in 2018 took a plea deal, pleading guilty to third-degree aggravated criminal sexual contact and was sentenced to time served.
That she'd already done, yeah.
That she already done, yep. Anna was released from prison but placed on the sex offenders register for life and banned from contacting Derrick ever again. As I mentioned earlier, Anna was married to Roger Stubblefield, and since their divorce, Roger has called Anna a pathological liar and narcissist. And the last little bit I've got is a little bit of where are they now? So Anna, upon her release from prison, took up a job as a waitress, which she couldn't hold on to for long due to the publicity surrounding her plea. She expresses that her current job, which is now part-time from home, allows her to remain anonymous for the most part, which seems to be more beneficial. And when it comes to Derrick, according to the Telegraph,
She's doing
he
sex
now
calls
lives with
from
his
home.
mother, Daisy, facilitated communication via
Yeah.
the internet.
Yeah.
He now lives with his mother, Daisy, in their home state of New Jersey, attending adult daycare daily. There you go. That's the story of Anna Stubblefield, FC, and Ouija boards.
God,
Goodness me.
What do you think?
my head's spinning a bit.
It's an awful lot of cray-cray, isn't it?
It is, because it's very hard to talk about it, because sometimes when I'm talking about it, I feel like I'm being very offensive to people with disabilities by suggesting that, they couldn't do such a thing or couldn't give consent or whatever else. There's that sort of very fine line. It's very hard to navigate.
You don't want to
that.
sound ableist.
Yeah.
Mm.
Having said that, what she suggested he was suddenly capable of, it's a bit more than a stretch, and that just is outrageous, really.
The real crime for me is the Ouija board. Like, if you're sitting there saying to someone, that this person has consented to something that everyone else is saying they can't possibly consent to, and no one else has the ability to use the Ouija board to confirm or deny it. I mean, he could be saying, hell no, I never agreed to any of this. And she's going, yes, he's saying he loves me forever and wants to come and live with me because she's got the pen.
I'm gay.
He could be saying she's a dirty pedo rapist.
And I'm
gay.
And she's going, yes, we're in love.
Yes,
like,
true.
just the whole thing is nonsensical.
From the perspective that she's the only person who can tell you what he's communicating. I'm surprised that her appeal was that couldn't be used as evidence because, and that got stood up in the end. Because that's what it all got revoked on, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was the plea deal
was allowed to come in. She got
the plea deal was what got her. Well, no, she didn't even go back to trial. She got a plea deal.
That they let her have a retrial, but then she took a plea.
Correct.
Yeah,
that's why it didn't.
Because probably it wouldn't stand up when it went to retrial, but she just needed the opportunity to get there.
Oh, there could have also been a whole lot of, we don't want to put Derrick through this again, nor the family.
No, but
it's a whole lot of money to
that.
spend.
She just wanted to have her day in court.
Yeah, no, that's right. But what I mean is the plea deal was probably brokered because everyone in the family side of things just went, come on, not again. Just keep her away from us and let us go on and have a normal life without Ouija boards.
Very interesting. I think I was aware of it, but in the far recesses of my mind, I remember it being sort of a story, but probably choosing not to pay too much attention because it really made me feel a bit uncomfortable. And having heard it in its full horror, I think, yes, it's not something that I really want to know about. In some ways, it's very disturbing. Is it very unusual? I don't know if unusual is enough of a word to describe how it makes me feel.
It's a lot of that sort of when do-gooders do bad,
Yeah.
And I think that description that you read before was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
She is, the what is it? The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and she has gone so far down this line of being an activist for disability and Black people, and to the point where she's lost kind of sight of it, and now she's doing good for herself, I think. And then I don't know, it's a real savior complex. She's really playing out this I'm saving him, and even she doesn't even care that she's the only one who can communicate with him because she's his savior.
I think also the fact that she was wheeling him out at conferences, and I don't mean wheeling them out in the disabled context, but also it says to me that she's adding additional prowess and getting herself in the spotlight, which is probably quite self-gratifying.
I think so.
And potentially going to do it more and more. That could go on, not necessarily in the sexual context,
on the
but
circuit.
The fraudulent context could go on for, God, eternity.
Yeah, if only she hadn't stooped him, she could have still been using him up in other ways.
Well, I don't know. I think
when she started to try and take the custody, that was like, oh, step too far, lady. Yeah.
Sentencing?
I'm thinking about it because I feel like this is a trial by wine like a trial by wine world sentence.
For her.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think of what it should be because earlier I thought, well, maybe we'll have her over a FC machine, but every time she tries to move, I don't know, we'll have to engineer this so that she's got special things on her fingers that the other person doesn't have. Every time she tries to move the person's hand or type a letter that they're not actually intending her to touch, then it gives her an electric shock or something to basically detrain her because she's got the touch.
Could you put a FC Ouija board kind of bionic implant into her throat that reverses things that she's not even reverses, but changes what she's saying? So when she tries to say, I'm a do-gooder, it'll say, I'm a sex pest. Or, so all of her communication is just completely
I'm having
skewed.
inappropriate thoughts about you right now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. She'd go, I'd like to take you on as an FC patient.
Yeah.
And it would say, I'd like to sexually molest you when your parents aren't looking or when your guardians aren't
It'll be
looking.
in your best interest that you can see my hands at all times. Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be a good one. She'd shut up pretty quick.
Mm.
Do you think nowadays she's accepted that she was just like mental, or do you think that she still thinks that there was a real relationship and that she's been hard done by?
I don't think there was ever the love that she is professing. I just think she was all about the glory and the fame and the grandiose and the spotlight.
I only asked because I thought then if you let the scales fall from her eyes and she wakes up and realizes she's actually been a sex pest, then that could be a good sentence. But if you think she already knew that, then...
Well, I think anyone who is fraudulently communicating for someone knows that they're not an intellectual equal, and she knows that she's taking advantage of him. I just can't see a world in which what she's saying is actually feasible to anyone who's sane. Because you would be saying, I need to get somebody else to be able to prove what I'm hearing from him, not going, of course, he told me this,
Yes.
Of course, he's never going to say it to anyone else, but I heard it.
If it doesn't sound like a very robust approach for an academic, does it? Just
Not
believe
at all.
me.
An academic do-gooder would be going, how do we bring help this person flourish?
Yeah.
Not, I'm the only one who can prove how smart they are and how horny they are and how fucking everything that she is professing onto him. It's awful.
Maybe something medieval, some kind of thing where they put your fingers in a locking system so she can't actually type on the FC machine. And I'm so uncomfortable with the whole sexual bit of it. And I'm a bit like you, Swanee. I'm like, am I uncomfortable about that? Because, we're talking about it in the context of a disabled person. Or am I uncomfortable with it because, to all intents and purposes, we're talking about a person with the intellectual capacity of a toddler?
Yes, for me, in this particular story, it's more to do with that. And I think that where I struggle to talk about it is the spectrum of disability is vast, right? So I don't want to offend anybody by...
I get it. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's so hard to speak to it, but it's like, ugh.
A married woman,
I know,
carrying on with a person who probably didn't want it and wouldn't have understood what was happening to him at the time. It's just awful.
The thing too is that that bit I read out about the only way that he could say no was through her, and she's the one saying that he's saying yes.
Well, if you watch it, the hand's going this way, and she's pushing it back up. No, it's not down on the N; it's on the Y.
Yeah. Anyone with half a brain and who actually did love someone would go, "This is not right." Yeah, right. Ethics lecturer. Yeah, exactly that.
Weird.
But come on, lady, you know all of this does not add up, and yet you're still happy to sprout it.
I think she did it for her own. Like, it's the view of herself as an academic and as being, the right, a good person to help. Because if she was just doing it to get her rocks off, she probably wouldn't tell anybody, right? No. She chose to share it because she thought that as part of a bigger picture, she was creating something that hadn't been done before by
emancipating him sexually, right?
I think
that's the difference. So that's why I find it really, whoa, you were really prepared to go out there and say, we're into each other. It's both. It's not just me. Otherwise, I'm sharing this with you, so I'm telling you that he's up for it.
I reckon she used that to try to get guardianship. And when the police said, hang on a minute, if this has all happened, you're up for sexual offences.
And you think the guardianship was
And
so she
she'd
could go
gone
and roll
too
him
far
out at
down
every
the
other
path.
conference
And go and
Right.
prove what a saviour she... Because once the parents don't have guardianship...
So there's a fair chance that she didn't have sex. She just said she did for this this
100%.
purpose, and it backfired. on her.
100%. And then she couldn't back out of it.
I feel more comfortable with that in some ways. Feels more
what
plausible.
sort of sex were they going to have?
Exactly, it's more plausible.
Well,
to
not
me.
like,
I
hey-
didn't want to labour the point, but yes, it did cross my mind. I was like, what were they up to? I don't know.
I think you're right that nothing happened. She just made it out so that she could get control over him, so that she could continue her academic do-goodiness and show the world, look what I've done, and look what he's my Sybil, he's my test subject, he's my, my not protege.
Which is why I
but
think
yeah,
the Ouija board in the
Yeah.
throat is a good one, because it
makes more sense.
stops her from being able to grandiose herself. And
Makes it pretty hard to do certain things
Anyway.
also.
Mm.
All right, well that was
excellent gesturing.
Don't choke on it.
was-
The Ouija board,
Yeah,
obviously.
obviously.
the planchette. Yeah. That was weird. Interesting, very interesting
Very
story
interesting.
though, Clarky.
Yeah.
Never heard of that one. So thank you for bringing that to the table. Sorry I preempted the Ouija board being a brand.
Branding.
You asked, do you know about
I
Ouija
didn't
boards?
know.
And I
That's
said,
very interesting.
yes, I do. And I got all excited. So, it should have been a clue. But great story. And as we say every week, miss you already.
Ciao.
Miss you already. Consent to sex with you. I don't. That's
Stop. Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.